I think that aspect can be considered fairly logically. The aspect that is hard to consider logically, at least for me, given my own limitations, is just all the societal effects and the political ramifications. But if you're getting to the specifics of what can I, as an individual who's working in technology, what sort of alpha can I get, or how might I go about getting that alpha? There are two possibilities. One is AI is doing everything, meaning there are no humans in any commercial decision making roles. Even the CEO is basically an AI, right? So let's just say that is possible. It's at least worth entertaining that possibility. Maybe it is the most rational place that we end up in, is that like you have no humans in the loop whatsoever. In that case, what are you going to do? There's nothing one can do. There's nothing that is going to ensure any degree of differentiation for you or me as an individual. And I can't quite tell what happens to people in that situation. I really don't know. So that's one possibility. The other possibility one can entertain is okay, AI is really powerful, right? It's super intelligence, right? Meaning the degree of intelligence that most of us can't even comprehend. Like, say, there is an ant inside a Boeing 777 or whatever, 747. Does the ant understand all the marvelous engineering and the thinking that went behind this object that the ant is in? I think a reasonable answer would be no, the ant has no idea. And so we might end up in a similar place where we are the ant and we cannot even conceive what this higher form of intelligence is capable of. Odds are that in that scenario, again, we end up in the first branch of this logic tree where it's like, what value are humans going to add then? It's just like, what value does an ant add to the operation of this amazing aircraft? Zero. So again, that's a possibility. But let's take another possibility where it's like, okay, well, we still need some humans in the loop. And why do we need them? Maybe we need them for liability reasons. We need them for ensuring that AI doesn't kill all of us, that AI doesn't occasionally create tremendous damage, whether direct damage or collateral damage. And for those cases, even in businesses, we need some humans in the loop. We need some humans to make the final calls for accountability, liability, or safety reasons. So that is a possibility too. And by definition, that means it is not going to be hundreds of thousands of humans doing it at a Microsoft or a Google or a Meta or whatever. It's probably going to be a handful of humans, a few humans. I don't know what the order of magnitude is, but I think it's safe to say it's not in the thousands. So now the question is, if one still chooses to engage in some occupation, profession, then obviously the question is, how do you ensure you are one of those handful of dozens of hundreds of human beings that are still valuable enough and whose judgment is still sound enough that you would be that human in the loop? So if that is the case, it's a big if, but if that is the case, if that's where we end up in the next 15 years, well, then the natural question is like, okay, like, do you want to be that person? And if you want to be that person, okay, what does it take to be that person? Clearly, by definition, what it takes is an extraordinary degree of judgment and clarity of thought and some degree of courage. So to me, those are the everlasting skills. Now, they may not last forever, but they will last for as long as human skills are relevant. And so it all then goes back to what is one doing right now to develop that judgment? And it, again, by definition, has to be world-class judgment. And it means that very few will ever succeed in doing it. And then the question goes back to, do I care enough to be trying to do this? It's, again, there is no faith required here. There's no authority proof or bias required here, which is like, oh, Shreyas is saying it, so you should pay attention or you should not pay attention. All of this is just pure logic, right? There is no faith involved here. Now, here's another way to provoke this line of thinking, which is, let's say we have extremely powerful AI. And by the way, most people, I don't think, use their imagination enough to figure out like how powerful it's going to be in 10 years from now. It would be highly surprising if it is not extremely powerful 3, 5, 10 years from now. So let's assume a world where, again, there are still organizations and companies that are competing to provide products, services, entertainment, whatever, to others. And this is not where I'm savvy enough. Like, will everything just be government controlled? Will there just be one government branded media company and one government branded SaaS company and one government branded AI company? Maybe that happens in some countries. I don't know. I'm not savvy enough to know that. But let's assume we are in a world where there's still private companies, private organizations that are competing for revenue, market share in a given market. Big assumption, perhaps. I don't know. And certainly we can say 3, 4 years from now, we'll still be in that world. I just don't know if we'll be in that world 10, 15, 20 years from now. Okay, so now you still have very powerful AI. You have more than one company competing in a given space. Every company has great AI. So who wins? What decides who wins? Right? Because every company has great AI. You have to assume that, because if they didn't, like that would be very clear. So if you're using, I don't know, OpenAI's model and it's not that great anymore, well, the rational thing to do would be to switch to whatever model your competitor is using, right? Or to use all the models, right? The point is, in a world where you have a highly capable AI, highly powerful AI, but you're still in a world where companies are competing for share, well, which company is going to win? It's a very logical question. And what is your answer to that question? Forget, like, in this future world, what's your answer to that question right now? What most people don't realize is the only correct answer to the question is the quality of the thinking. That is the ultimate answer to the question of which company executes better, is the quality of the thinking.